What happens when you get a dog and very quickly you realize, well, maybe even not quickly, maybe slowly, you realize that y'all are not two peas in a pod. You are oil and water. What do you do? I was on my walk this morning and I was thinking about what analogy I wanted to try to make for you about that. I did not intend to be raising children alone. I did not intend that. I intended to have a partner and to do that. But that's not where we are right now. And that's not where we're going to be. So I have to accept that something that I thought was going to be is not going to be. And even though the situation may not be ideal, I can still have a really great life. And I can still do things that will make me more successful, my children more successful, all of that kind of stuff. So that's, I want you to keep that in mind. It doesn't mean that because you made a bad decision, you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you are stupid. It doesn't mean that you are incapable of making good decisions in the future. It just means that you made a bad decision. And this one happens to involve somebody else's life. So, while I could hem and haw over the fact that things aren't the way that I want them to be, I recognize that there are many, many beautiful things in my life, and how can I look at it from that lens of being grateful and seeing how I can be successful. So next, we're going to watch a little video that I put together to help illustrate this point. And hopefully what I want to do with these videos, each day we're either going to watch a video, and they're short, don't worry, or I'm going to tell you a personal story. And what I'm trying to do is to get you to connect with these concepts. Instead of saying, oh, well, that's not me. We're going to do what we do in recovery. And we're going to listen to the stories, and we're going to see, where do I hear myself? Where do I see myself or my dog in that story? And try to make a connection instead of trying to run away from the discomfort. I promise you, if you see things through that way, you will find the most rewarding situations, scenarios, people, feelings that you have ever felt in your life if you really examine what you are doing. Not what everybody else is doing, but what you're doing. Okay? So we'll watch that now. I'll be back. We'll talk about it just for a little bit, and then we'll get into our skill for the day. What happens when we are faced with the fact that the dog we chose or rescued is not a match for our lifestyle? Meet Keegan. He's an early 30s-something engineer living in a very nice subdivision in Chico, California. Keegan lives with his dog, Peaches, and after several years of living together, he decides that he's going to rescue another dog, and Lucy enters their lives. While Keegan's life with Peaches had seemed manageable, once Lucy entered the picture, things suddenly got out of control. Lucy could never settle down. It seemed like she was constantly running around and barking, looking for things that would trigger her so that she could bark at those things. Inside the house, it wasn't much better. She had a really hard time staying away from the windows, and it seemed like every little sound would disturb her. This only rubbed off on Peaches, and before you knew it, the dogs were rehearsing and repeating these loops of behavior. Keegan decided to get a DNA test on both of the dogs to see what breeds they would be, and to see if that could help him answer some questions about what to do. And while Peaches wasn't a big mystery, Lucy was a different story. Lucy is an interesting combination of coonhound, pit bull, mountain cur, foxhound, and plot hound. Those are really gamey dogs that are meant to be in the woods. Coonhounds, for example, are meant to run around in packs, barking and baying at things and treeing them and holding them there for the hunter or another dog to come in. Blackmouth curs and mountain curs are commonly used today as catch dogs. While they're all-around utility dogs, they are some of the most tenacious in the canine world. Keegan now realizes that he has some incompatibilities going on with the dogs that are in his life. the first step that anyone like this can take is to start in the house. And that's where we'll begin today. Keegan is a real person that really lives in Chico. He really is an engineer. He really has Peaches and Lucy. That was a true story. Keegan is introverted. I have permission to share this, by the way. He expressed to me that he deals with a lot of anxiety. He's very close with his family. He has a great support system, and he has a girlfriend. And I feel like those things really helped him come and get help. If he had been by himself and really didn't have anybody else, I think he would have just tried to deal with it alone, as men often do. So I was so happy that he came to see me. One of the first things that I noticed with Keegan was that we couldn't really even do basic scatters inside, because it was like, if you're Keegan, I'll be Lucy. You see what I'm getting at? And Keegan would stand there like this. And he would just wait. And he would be like, I don't know. And it was so hard for him in the beginning because the arousal in the house was so high. Our home is to be our respite. Our home is to be a place that is really devoid of novelty. Everything in it we're used to. There's nothing novel in here, I guess, unless we get something new. It's to be a place where the stimuli of the world cannot get to us. It's where many of us recharge. It's where many of us feel comfort in having like decompression time, so to speak. So I want you to think about taking that concept in your own life and applying that to how your dog may feel, okay? Because if we never learn how to manage our nervous system via emotional regulation, which is really just coming to the forefront of like the collective consciousness right now. We right now as human beings are just learning this about ourselves. And I think that we can directly apply that to dogs. I know that we can. Many people are doing it. So what we're going to do today is work on our scatters, but I'm also going to put a little bonus information in here. And I want to encourage you to watch. If you want to know more about this and you want to see it in its entirety, please just go watch Managing Arousal 3. There's a whole section called Managing Arousal in the House. It sounded like it was going to be funny when I said it. And that's going to show you one of my clients that's going through the process of how do we calm down when guests come over? How do we calm down this in the house from excitement? It takes you through every single step. So please check into that if you want to know more. But I'm going to move our camera. We're going to get Enzo and we're going to go by the door. So if everybody that's participating, if you want to go to your front door, to your back door, whichever you'd like to do, go find the place in your house that's the hot door. What's the hot door? Where is your dog waiting at it? It's barking at it. It's anything like that. Go to that door right now. Take your dog, take your snacks, get your snack bag, and we'll get started. Before we get our dog, I'd like to say something about doors, about doorways. These are portals of transition. And while we may not think of it like that, we open the door and we go out, dogs don't think of it like that. This is one space, and out there, that's a whole different area. And when they go through places like that, an energy change happens with them. It just does. I'm sure that there's some scientific, spiritual, emotional, there's all the answers to that, but we don't need to dissect it. We just know that it happens. The sun is hot. Dogs struggle with transitions, okay? They struggle with doors. So the first thing you need to know about this is that we're going to treat this like it is the entrance to the club, okay? And when we come up, oh, okay, I can hear the music inside. I'm getting a little. The closer you get to that door and the closer you get to front of the line, you're really you're really getting it. This is the turn down for what area. And if you don't know that about this area and you just think that this is a regular thing for dogs, I think that you'll have struggles, okay? So we're going to talk about association in the turn down for what area. And if this is the club and the turn down for what, we want to turn it into more of like a spa vibe, more of a, maybe like a breathwork class vibe, like a meditation. We don't want this at the door all the time. And while even dogs that, like Enzo, that work on this, the door is still a thing. When you open it and it makes the sound, that's going to call most dogs to the door. Okay, because what are you doing? Why are you over the door? What are you doing? Is somebody there? Is somebody there? That sound, oh, well, speak of the devil. Here he comes. That sound means something to them. He's looking. What? What's out there? Nothing. Do you want a snack? I want you to work on opening and closing your door and removing the novelty from that. Your scatters don't need to be perfectly, okay, and now say yes. Okay, and now no. That's not what we're doing. When you're managing arousal in the house, you're not working on, let me rephrase that. When you're managing arousal in the house, the focus is more on what's happening in the nervous system than it is you getting your markers completely perfect and you worrying about, I think that sometimes we worry about that too much when we shouldn't. Unless you're trying to get a specific behavior in a specific way, don't worry so much about the marker in this situation, right? Because it's just not, we're just doing this. And he's eating food by the door, and I'm gonna open the door, and I'm gonna start to take some of the sensitivity he has to that sound away. And when you do this with your dog, let's say once a day you try to do this. Let's say 3 times a week you try to do this. You're gonna start to get a dog that comes by the door and looks to you and looks for food and isn't obsessed with what's on the other side of the door. When they become non-obsessed with what's on the other side of the door, there's a different association. And now the door is just a thing. It goes to the outside. I don't need to get stressed out or worried when my mom opens the door or when my dad opens the door, because we're just doing this exercise. Okay? So that's the first thing I want you to do in your mini packs today, is let's just do some scatters and open and close our doors. If you want to work on different doors in the house, that's fine. But just make sure that you're not making this assignment different every door you go to. Stand right here where you can get to the door, where you can open the door, okay? If you need to put a leash on your dog because your dog's really super excitable and keeps running off like Lucy would do, that's fine, right? You just step on it. It's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It would be the same as like me saying to Milo, you know what, let me just hold your hand through this process. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't do it forever. Okay? So that's all we got today. Again, if you would like to see through this entire process of managing arousal in the house, what happens when guests come over, you're going to check out Managing Arousal 3.0 and watch the bonus section. Okay? Oh, let's go, team.